visibili uno omnium et invisibilium,
et in unum Dominum Iesum Christum.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to Christianity Reloaded. Today, we're gonna talk about this Christian teaching. Like you can call them revelation in a way. We're gonna talk about 5 Christian teaching that among these 5, I'm gonna highlight the ones that come from Protestants. And I'm gonna tell you the difference between the one that doesn't come from Protestants and the difference. Let me start with the difference. The difference is that the ones that come from Protestants are not heard universally. You know what I mean? Is a minority of Christians that head to this teaching that comes from Protestants, and all of them are new teaching. It's not as ancient as those teachings that I'm going to mention. And number one, you can figure out as I'm mentioning. Number one is the canon of the scripture. We talk about. Let me list all of them first before I go ahead and touch briefly in each of them. And number one there is the canon of scripture, the Bible we have today. It's a revelation. Is a teaching as well. And number two is Trinity. These teachings, is Christian teaching, and most of them are heard universally, which means that 80% of Christians accept it in one way or the other. And number three in this teaching, number three is rapture. People might not be familiar with raptures. Many Christians, but it's still there. People are still teaching about this. You can call it doctrine. You know what I mean? You can call it some Christian sect doctrine. And number four is once always saved. This once always saved is teaching. Like once you're saved, once you become born again, you're saved, and you can never lose your salvation. This is a teaching, some set of Christian teaching. And I'm gonna go back and tell you which one is universally heard and which one are not. And number five is the nature of Christ. When we talk about the divinity of Christ, whether Christ have two natures. These are Christian teaching. So let me go back to the first one I mentioned, the canon of scriptures. This is not a Protestant teaching. If this is Protestants are not involved in the canon. They don't know when the canon is closed, when the Bible is closed. When the church declared that the Bible is closed, like we don't have a new revelation. Even if we find any other book, like the archaeologists maybe dig any manuscript and they said it's written by maybe Andrew, maybe have signature of Andrew there. We're not gonna bring it as, this is we are expanding our Bible. The Bible canon, books of the Bible are closed forever. It's not gonna be added. So this is not Protestant teaching. I think, and the number two I mentioned is Trinity, and the Trinity, the Trinity, God as a Trinity, is not Protestant teaching. They just picked it up from church, from the church that Christ founded. It's not. There wasn't even a Protestant when this doctrine was approved. The nature of God, Trinity of persons, which is distinguished between the relation of origin of the Trinity. So this Trinity is not a Protestant doctrine. but they held it. They believe in it. They accept it. They don't have option that they accept it. And number 3 is rapture, and this rapture you can know by the name, how it sounds, is that you cannot find this teaching even 500 years ago. You cannot find it in Christian teaching. It's an innovation. It's a new teaching, which the Bible warns us against people teaching the doctrine of man. You know what I mean? Rapture is not in the Bible. It's a made-up doctrine. That's why it's not held universally. There's no council that talked about, there's no church council or ecumenical council that talked about rapture. It's not there. You can't find it. You can only find it in some Christian sects talking about the rapture, how they're going to be raptured and the second coming, third coming of Christ, all this stuff that they don't find it. It's not there in the Bible. And it's not that, it's not like if doctrine is on the Bible, we cannot believe it. We can believe, we believe something that we can't find in the Bible. Like you can't find in the Bible where the name Trinity appears, like in a written form. You don't find it, but we believe in Trinity. But we don't believe in Trinity because somebody invented, people that invented rapture, because they don't have authority. We shouldn't listen to them. Why should we listen to somebody that talked about coming from a denomination and say talking about rapture? What credibility do they have? It doesn't have any credibility for us to follow and believe what they said about the rapture. And the same thing about once always saved, and once you're born again and you're saved, you can't lose your salvation. This doctrine is not held universally. That's how to know Protestant doctrine. It's never held universal. There's never a Protestant doctrine that can be held universally. Like everywhere you go, you meet a Christian, you find a set that believe in it. And once always saved is not in the Bible, because one problem about once always saved is that you become your own judge. What's the point of second coming of Christ, to judge the living and the dead? If you're already saved, so you're not gonna pass judgment. There's a lot of problem with this. Once always saved. You're not gonna lose your salvation. There's a lot of problem. The basic problem there is that you become your own judge, which the Bible condemned. So you cannot say that you're saved. You can only say that you have the grace of God in you, and you pray that you preserve to the end. You know what I mean? And the fifth one is the nature of how many nature that the Christ have. It's Christology. Christ have two natures: human nature and divine nature. This is not Protestant doctrine. Is because it's ancient. It's coming from the church. This doctrine is coming from the church that Christ founded. It's not a new. So it's not a new teaching. It's old. It's old teaching. Is more than 600 years old. This nature of Christ, teaching is fully God and fully man, And all these 5 teachings I mentioned are, you can say, Christian teachings, but it depends on the level of acceptance. Those that come from Protestant have lower acceptance. Somebody like me doesn't believe in all of them. All these ones that come from Protestant I mentioned, like rapture, once always saved, is not in the Bible. Nobody should believe them, but some people still believe them. But I don't think because you believe in it, you're not gonna go to heaven. This is not what I think. You might still believe in this rapture, but if you're a good person, you serve God with your heart, you go to heaven. Peace.